It was time to head on out the front door. All day I had been keeping tabs on the weather, as I like to capture lightning as a hobby for photography. The weatherman on this occasion had looked to be correct. It was raining heavily, and I could hear distant sounds of thunder. I head on out, camera and equipment in my bag, and drove to where the lightning was situated, whilst also finding a nice quiet spot so I could be in peace. Get myself that unique shot. I found myself parked up at a very quiet cliff edge. There was a lighthouse and looked like someone had lived inside, so I set up my camera to overlook the sea and patiently waited. I was able to get some truly stunning pictures and headed on back to my car with a smile on my face. I hopped into my car, started up the engine and just sat for a little bit, really taking in my own excitement at being able to capture something that not many would. I reach around to grab my seatbelt as I pull it over to slide into the socket, sealing me into the seat. The seatbelt clicks and I spot someone sitting in my back seat. I shit you not, I jump and panic a bit, whilst this person in the back talks extremely calmly, telling me that I won't get hurt if I just remain calm. Of course, I was only listening to my panicking mind for a while longer, fussing around trying to escape. That was until they held a knife up to my head. It was then I realised that it was a woman in my back seat. We exchanged words back and forth for a bit, with her telling me that she wants me to leave my car and the keys as she needed it. Part of me was willing to fight this, as I lived very far away. But when someone holds a knife to you, you simply just nod and get out of the way. I have my backpack over my shoulders and watch as she drives away into the night. What came next shocked me. The person that was living in the lighthouse came marching out, holding something in their hand as they started screaming frantically. I have no idea what that woman did, but I found myself running for my life once more. Eventually I got to a quiet pub that was thankfully still open, and I was able to not only call for the police, but get a lift back home. I have not been back to that place since, and I don't intend to. The police found my car parked abandoned in a lay-by. No damage had been done to it, just a note that read, "Be a good boy now, you may never know who comes knocking your door one very quiet night." I honestly think that night drives really help my mental health. Really makes me relax and think things over. This night was no change. I was driving through roads I had been through many times before. I kept the roads I have always been on because it was a comfort thing. Around an hour into my drive though, feeling much better in myself and ready to head on home and get some sleep, I of course end up coming across roadworks, diverting traffic down some side roads. I wasn't happy about this, as I had no idea what roads I had to be taking to get back home. Driving for a little while longer, it was getting ridiculous. I had to pull over and pull up Google Maps on my phone to have a look and to try to memorize what turns I needed to make. I was confident I could do this in one go, especially seeing as though a large portion was mainly through this country lane. Sitting at the entrance to it, I was always uncomfortable with country lanes, as they were tight, twisting, and some maniac drivers go through it. But taking a deep breath and ready to make my way into what I thought would be an anxiety-inducing time, a cat jumps onto my car's bonnet. It looked like it fell out of a tree, and landed quite hard, and this car wasn't anything much, but it was a gift, so I was cautious of it, and got out of the car. I wanted to see if the cat was okay, partially wanting to pet it, but also checking to make sure the car was all fine. Turns out it was, and the cat stayed for a little petting before walking back off towards the hedges. I watched as it crossed the road, and I wanted to make sure it got across safely, so cautiously followed it across. As it went into the hedges though, things fell silent, and all I hear next is the cat whimper with a hard crunch following immediately after, and then it fell silent again. Not a whimper could be heard, as my anxiety and panic was now at extreme levels, edging ever so closer to the hedge. I thought I could see something thanks to a nearby lamppost, and as I stepped to my side to get a better view, I see this large, dark figure hunched over. They seemed to pay me no attention before they snapped an evil stare towards me, eyes glimmering in the night, sending me stumbling back and running to my car. I don't know what I saw, and I tell you, it was no animal I know of, and no human I had seen before. But I drove out of that country road instantly, driving the long way home instead. I was with my girlfriend on a night drive. It was a really nice night. The sunset was beautiful, and now the stars were out in full swing. I usually like to drive in silence, and by silence, I just meant no radio or music. And this night was no different. We just sat together, holding hands and enjoying our time together. It was around midnight, and we had been driving for around an hour and a half when I turned down some side streets, as I was told they were a quicker route to get to the beach. Most nights I would head to the beach, as I felt the most relaxed there. But going down these streets, I noticed the look of my partner's face, as she didn't look too pleased. In fact, she looked mortified. The houses were falling apart, damaged. The gardens were a mess. Burnt out cars were on the street. It looked like a war had just broken out, and nobody has come along to clean it up yet. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It may be slightly out of the way in terms of where it was located, but you never expect to see places like this. It had felt like it had gone on for far too long, and I had a feeling it was going to get worse when I spotted someone standing in the middle of the road. At first, they hadn't noticed us, even when I saw them walking around in circles whilst being on the phone. My girlfriend told me to slow down, as I was honestly prepared to just go around. But I came to a stop and just waited and hoped the man would just move. But he never. As soon as he got off the phone, he walked straight up to my window and started asking for a lift. His teeth were rotten, his skin looked dry and flaky, and all around he looked rough. I asked where he wanted to go, as he continued to only ask for a lift. My girlfriend shook her head, as she gave me a solid no, as I was seriously considering giving the lift, as I try not to judge people. But the more I sat and stared at this man, the more something didn't feel right. With his high-pitched voice, he was at least in his mid-40s, and so persistent on a lift, even tapped my window over and over again. I told him that I won't be given a lift and started to drive off. But he backed away from the car and remained still. I glanced at my side mirror as I drove calmly away, checking to see what he was doing. But it was literally nothing. As I turned to my girlfriend to give a confident smile for her, my back window smashes and I hear gunshots flying past. I put my foot down and got the hell out of there as fast as possible, whilst my girlfriend huddled down and started to get upset. By the time we made it home, thankfully none of us were hurt, but the car had taken quite a few bullets to the bodywork. I called the police and told them what happened, but nothing ever came of it. You really never expect shit like this to happen to you, and then it hits you when you really do least expect it.